Well, and going back to the thing about the batten down the hatches, when I
Mhm.
was looking into that in terms of a nautical term, I immediately thought of the passage of scripture where Jesus was asleep on the boat during the storm.
Uh-huh.
And his
Yes.
disciples were like, "What are you doing sleeping?" And then he got up and he rebuked the wind and the waves. And
Yeah.
another situation too with the storm was when Jesus was off praying, the disciples were on the sea and it got really stormy and they saw Jesus walking on the water. And so I just
Mm.
want to, I guess, encourage the viewers too that in
Mhm.
the midst of those storms, Jesus still had the authority over them to such a degree that he could calm those wind and waves and he could walk on the water in the midst of
Yes.
the stormy water. So I just want to add that too, that's just an
Yeah.
encouragement that we can look to Jesus to be our anchor. We can look to Jesus to help us lift up out of the waves, to calm
Yes.
the storm,
Yes,
even
absolutely.
internally. So
Yes. Yeah, and he raises up a standard. There's also kind of two perspectives of that. He raises up a standard within us. When the enemy comes like a flood, he raises up a standard, but the standard is Jesus,
mhm.
and the standard is him. Kind of like I said, I see it as him waving his banner over us, like we
Yeah.
are the people of God. Like
Yeah.
we fear him, and so we have this banner of protection over us in the spiritual realm, because remember,
Mhm.
it's not against flesh and blood, it's
Right.
against principalities in the unseen realm.
Yeah.
And so we are covered and protected as his people. Like that encourages me.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's kind of like the idea, I've always loved the idea of when it's like snowy and stormy outside and you have a fire going and it's like you don't have to be out in it, but you're like all cozy on the inside. That's how I think of it. Of just
Yeah.
you've got like everything you need to have a nice cozy time and you're safe, and but even though there's like wild weather raging outside of you.
Yes, exactly. And he is our fire. He's the fire within us,
Mhm.
and we can trust in him. And so, if there's things going on in our mind or internally, we if you're listening to this or someone's listening to this and is like, I don't understand because I'm still stressed, I'm scared, I have anxiety, I have no peace, or whatever those things are, then we have to go into our mind and pull out our belief systems like we were talking about earlier, because the only power that the enemy can have against us as believers in Jesus is the power that we give him. So
Mhm.
if we are sitting here afraid and fear shooken, well, we've got to break some agreements with fear, because we've given fear territory in our mind, and he only has what we give him. And
Mhm.
so, if you think about the mind as like a battlefield, kind of like Joyce Meyer's, one of the best books ever written
Yeah.
on the mind.
Yes.
You
Yes.
think of it like a battlefield or whatever, a football field. How much of it is have you given to the enemy? And how much of it does Jesus actually have? So when I begin to think of that, and I think about that daily actually, because if there's a thought that comes in or I'm struggling in my mind, I realize, okay, that's a lie. That's
Mhm.
not from God. And
Yeah.
I need to break an agreement there and take back all the authority in my mind, because this mind belongs to Christ. And
That's right.
anything else has been given illegal, is on illegal territory. Like they're not supposed to be there. That belief is not supposed to be there. And so we
Yeah.
cancel it. We have the power over it.
Yes, absolutely. And I tell my girls, based off of the second Timothy verse, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power
Mhm.
and love and a sound mind. I know other translations say self-control, but to me, those go hand in hand. And so what I say to my girls is you choose where your mind wanders.
Yes.
You get to choose. And
Yes.
it's not like these thoughts just come at you and they get to just have free reign in your mind. You get to go, wait a minute, no. And I'll do this little description like, nope, wait a minute, that thought, that doesn't belong to me, and cast it out, just kind of as a cute
Yes.
picture for kids.
Yeah.
But that's what you should do. You should take those thoughts and go, wait a minute, where's this coming from? Where's that? Where's the root of that? Wait a minute, that doesn't align with scripture. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And it can be that simple too.
Yeah, that's
So,
perfect. I love that. I love, not Romans. Yes, it is Romans. Romans 12:2. If you read that in the Passion, it is so good. It's really about having a reformation of our minds.
yes, by
Actually,
transforming the way that we think.
Yes, by
Yeah.
transforming the way that you think. So you guys can look that up later. But I love the way it says it in the Passion, because it's literally having a reformation in our minds, by reforming the way, letting Jesus reform the way we think.
Mhm.
And when I was going through that counseling time, what I talked about at the beginning of this session, it was like Jesus interrupted in that season. Jesus interrupted my belief system, and our
Mhm.
belief systems are so important. They actually bring the total trajectory of our life. Like where we are at right now is where we believed we would be 5 years prior to that. In other words, our belief systems manifest our tomorrows, who we believe we are, where we believe we were going. Like our belief systems forms our daily habits that
Yep.
form our decisions that form our tomorrows.
Mhm.
Like our belief systems are so important. And I've been thinking a whole lot more about this. And I realized that a couple of years ago, it was like Jesus came in and interrupted my belief system. And he began to ask me all kinds of questions like, what is holiness? And who am I? I'm like, well, you're God. Well, who else am I? I'm like, what do you mean?
I love it when he asks questions where it's like, I know you know the answer to this, God, so clearly you're about to teach me something.
Yes, you're like, "Okay, where are you going with this? Like,
Yes.
you're taking me somewhere."
Yeah.
And he did. I mean, he took me on this whole journey of discovering what holiness is, and studying that word from Genesis to Revelation, and who he is and what has he actually set me free from, so that I
Mhm.
can share with others, that I'm not just sharing, I love Jesus because he saved me. Well,
Yeah.
what did he save you from? What did
Yeah.
I save you from? So
Yeah.
it was an interruption of my belief system, one of the most beautiful interruptions.